We don't really have any receipts for the drinks.
I'm on, dude. Hey, are you sure the 6 o'clock? I don't have anybody here. I'm on it. I'm click the one that you want. There's nobody on, and we're 12 minutes late. You guys send me out, man. Hello, Lily. It's just me and you. Oh, here come more people. All right. Rudy, hello. We're gonna have 1 or 2 new people. Be nice to them. We kind of did a little script on the schedule. Steven, welcome back, bud. Love watching the photos online. Probably can't even hear me. One second, just waiting for a couple of people. How's everybody's week going?
So far, so
right. Good. So far, so good. What I like to hear. Or just email me. Right? One second, people. Okay. What is that noise? Who's swimming? Let's go. I'm ready. I love it. Was that you, Rudy?
what?
I heard like water noise. I was like, oh, man.
Oh, no.
Swimming. You did? On what? Okay, thank you. Sorry guys, still trying to figure out all the logistics. We had some changes in my company, so we're a little bit off on the time. Anyways, how's everyone's week going? Good? Awesome. Well, a couple of things. We're down to a couple of people. Some people have missed. So last week we talked about undervaluing and devaluing yourself, right? 2 weeks ago we talked about the Boston workers mentality, right? Has that helped you guys at all changing your thought and your process and what you're trying to do? Nodding your head is yes. Stephen, just so you know, it's on the Facebook page. I know you didn't have a chance to do the last 2 weeks. But I just want to reiterate the undervaluing yourself scenario. Many people do this in business and life. And this is a fine line between ego and your ability to actually work, right? Ego would be, there's 150 people signed up who are looking through my stuff. There's 5 people here today. That'd be my ego. Undervaluing myself would be, I'm not gonna do the call today and be responsible for the people that did show up. Does that make sense? It's a very fine line. The new session I had, we had like 20 people, right? Why do I tell you this? A lot of times when people talk about walking away and going away and moving forward, what they constantly run into is they run into the fact that they're undervaluing themselves and they have no idea why they're trying to stay and we're going from there. Let me give you an example. I have a team member who I'm very, very close to, who I work with, and he was not hitting his strides and his numbers and his things. And I couldn't understand what was going on with him. So we had to talk. We moved forward to talk. And I asked him again, I said, hey, what happened? Where are you at? Why aren't you doing this? Why don't you have it figured out? And I thought we understood each other. A couple weeks later, same problem happens. A couple weeks later, same problem happens. By the third or fourth time, as much as I'm compassionate and sympathetic towards people, I have to value my time and my knowledge and my ability and my network. I have to. That's the way life works. I have to know what my worth is in this world so nobody can take that worth from me, right? That's a very important thing. Understanding your value so nobody can take your value, right? When I did that, and when I was part of that, what I realized was, at what point have you guys told me that you have to walk away and move forward and not do this anymore? When you know absolutely it's not an ego play, but it's a value yourself play. That's when. Now, when you value yourself, it will be the hardest decision you can ever make. You will think about the past. You will think about the future. You will think about the present. You will think about all the good times. You will think about all the stuff you went through, whether it's work or a significant other or a friend. You will think about it. You will believe it. You will understand it. But there's an honest point. If your ego at this point isn't an issue, that you have to move on. People come in your life like seasons. That's the hardest thing we have to learn as adults. We're all adults. It sucks. I didn't want to be an adult. It's actually the worst decision I ever made in my life, right? But the hardest part about valuing yourself is a job, friends, loved ones. When you talk about your friends, family, associates column, and that should be ever changing, right? Because people are always changing. When you start devaluing yourself and start making excuses like that, you no longer have any value. Let me give you an example of work. If you know how to do something and you choose not to do it, you're devaluing your worth in the company because your boss didn't tell you to. You're not adding value. And if you can't add value to what you're doing, then you're never going to achieve and grow because your competition is always adding value for you to achieve and grow. Fair? Number two, if you're not depositing in your relationships, but you're withdrawing your relationships, you run into the same problem because your ego's in play, but your value towards that person doesn't exist. If you valued everybody else, it doesn't mean they're going to value you, and that's where it hurts the most. What do I mean by that? I get paid to speak in front of tons of universities. Like this next week, I'll be speaking, I think 2 or 3 times next week. I'll be teaching at universities, these courses, these ideas. Do you think the people that have missed the last 7 or 8 sessions or 6 sessions or 5 sessions, that we're going to keep them on? Hell no. You want to know why? Because they're not valuing my time. Right? Things happen. I get it. How hard is it to message and give me a heads up? Or message Pandanomics and say, hey, we're not going to make it today. It's not that hard, right? But people don't value themselves enough to go from there. And then it's an ego play because you're trying to grab onto people and go from there. And you're like, oh, this is the most awfulest thing in the world. And the reality is, that's when you have to know your worth and your value. Because when you're losing your worth and your value, you are miserable and you feel like you deserve more, right? In work and in business and in life. But are you the one who's putting yourself under value in everything that you're doing? You have to show value in order to have more value. But if you're not doing that, how can you actually anticipate value? When I talk about the boss worker mentality, that's the same thing. As a boss, I have no choice but to add value. As a worker, it's not my problem. But nothing frustrates anybody more when the boss knows that you have the ability to do so and you're choosing not to. I'll give you a second example. I have a partner who's very young, who's part of my group, who sees the people that we're bringing in, who sees the workers that we're bringing in, who sees the Mark Cuban merch drop that I just had, and Mark Cuban's my brand new partner, and I'm doing with Arkansas State, and I'm doing with ASU, who sees all the important people that are out there, who sees my social media. And what did they do? Sorry, I just want to... They literally devalue themselves because they're not getting paid immediately. So they lessen their value towards me in my eyes. And as I sit there and I watch them do something, and I ask them, hey, how long does it take you to do this normally? 5 hours. How many hours did it take you to do this actual project? How many times have you done these videos? I'll give you an example. Oh, I did 6 during the summer. It takes you 5 hours to do one thing, but you only did 6 a whole entire summer. You devalued yourself. In my eyes, you just told me you didn't give 2 shits. In my eyes, you told me that all the work you did to get to that point didn't matter. That's what I see. So when you devalue yourself and you not undervalue, devalue yourself, that is a position that we are suffering in life, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, because we don't know that line. And you have to know that line. You have to have that self-respect to go from there. People make mistakes, problems happen, people don't do things right. Nobody understands that better than the guy who's made plenty of mistakes. But when you start doing that, the end result is what? Unhappiness. Now your compassion is like, well, you want to speak Spanish, te trae la mano y te cara el piel, right? I helped you out and you screwed me. You let them do it a second time. Whose fault is that at that point? It's your fault, not their fault. There is a point where you have to realize that you deserve more and that you earn more. And there's 6 billion people in the world that will give you more. That's your value. Do you guys understand what your value is? Why do I say that? The new task list, what I haven't given anyone else, is this one right here. I want you to now write down your value. And when you write down your value, we'll have it on his writing the template. It'll be up on the Facebook, but I want you to break down a couple areas. Your value mentally. What do you think of yourself? Your value spiritually. I'm not about religion. How you feel in your soul and what your value is. Your value within your family, your significant others. Keep going. Your value at work or what you're trying to do in business, and your value with your friends. And I want you to ask yourself, are you undervaluing yourself? And are people taking advantage of your compassion and sympathy and niceness? Don't let it be an ego play. If you're not sure, ask yourself again and again and again. If you're getting angry, you're not valuing your peace. Deep breath. Reassess your valuation. Know what your worth is. That doesn't mean you have to take an action. That just means we focus in on our egos, we focus in on our perspectives, we focus in on who our friends and family are. We've read books. You've heard me ramble on for 14, 15, 16 hours of your lives at this point. You listen to the Pandanomics. What is your value? Let me tell you guys, this. This week, had Jess not messaged me and said, hey, your Pandanomics went up, didn't go up, I wouldn't have known. I was like, oh shit, so we never fixed it. She added value and she made me feel valued because she did that. Rudy puts a post, makes me feel valued. Lily's Instagram's got my face in 2 of them. I'm like, hey, that's me, welcome. There's a value there, right? We're trying to add and give hope and help each other out, right? I need help as much as everyone else does. And you know me, I'm very honest, and I'll tell you guys that. Look at your value added list. What is your value? And are the people around you, now you can put together your friends, family, associates, are they valuing you at that point? And if they're not valuing you, what are you doing wrong to not allow them to value you? And the first thing I'm going to tell you is, if you read the 5 languages of love, like I've been preaching, I have one of my best friends, he told me this. David, had I read this book 2 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten divorced. Hand to God. That's why I give you the books. And you see the correlations, like, why does God make me read a book? This isn't school. I hate reading. It's because we get to this point and you have to understand your value. And then once you understand your value, are you giving your value to all 5 areas? Because yes, you deserve it, but are you giving the value? And if the honest answer with no ego is no, then that is why you're not where you need to be in one of those 5 categories. Think about what I just said. You're not where you need to be because if you do have that value, maybe you just didn't know it. Maybe you do know it. But in order to really move forward, you have to understand your value, again, in the friend side, the business side, the family side, the spiritual side, the health side. You have to have that value, and then you know how to move forward because you know your worth. You know, on Sunday, my 2 podcasts from now, the next person that comes on is someone of value. Let me tell you. I'm on Instagram one day. First off, has everyone seen the movie Bow? The little short film from Disney Pixar that was Incredibles 2? Come on, man. Y'all have not seen this movie? Okay. Everyone needs to see the 7-minute film. There is a point to the story. It is free. It's on Netflix. All right. If you don't have your Netflix, I will give you my passcode. You can go steal it from someone else. This movie is important. I'm going to tell you why this is important. When I am talking to this person was a very young person, and I want to understand my value. So I go on their Instagram. This movie's about, Bao is like a dumpling. It's a Chinese dumpling. And this is before Rich Crazy Asians came out. And it's by Disney and Pixar. In fact, it's so big, it's won multiple awards. And last year, I saw this movie, and my friends are calling like, yo, David, this movie's about you. This movie's about your mom. This movie's about Katie. It's about you, and it's about your life. And you really have to understand it and make that impact and see what's going on. And I'm like, a cartoon? What? So I jump in, and I'm watching Incredibles 2, which I like, and then I'm like, I see this movie short film, and I start bawling. It's really a movie about me and my life. It's about a mother who can't let go of their kid. It doesn't matter who it is in your life. She gets so invigorated and loved with this child that when he's going to leave, she eats it. It's not the kid, it's a dumpling. And then when she starts crying and she realizes it, then they show you it's actually a kid. And the meaning behind that is, I wish I could keep you here forever. For you mothers, you know what I'm talking about. For you parents, you know what I'm talking about. Because you're always with me. Value. So I go on this Instagram with this person. I'm like, whoa, her name is Domi Shea. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. You know, I really like it. So I add you on Instagram. I'm just following them. One day, fate has it that she happens to be doing these donations and she's hand painting this art. Right? This movie. This is the creator and director of this movie. And she's bidding out to help nonprofits. So I see it. I bid on the first one. I don't win. I try to get slick on the second one before it's 9, it ends at 9 at 8:58. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go bid on it. Wrong time zone. Damn it. Third one comes in. I'm like, I'm going to bid on this one because it means so much to me. I'm going to give this to my mother. And I'm going to tell her how much I love her and how much value she has to me. And the first piece of real artwork I bought was like $3,000. Never bought a piece of artwork that much. Wasn't because I was trying to show off. Wasn't because I put it online. It's because it was that meaningful to me. So I buy it and I win it, and I'm messaging her and I say to her, I'm like, hey, this is such a great movie. It was impactful. I share a couple photos of me, share photos of my fiance, share photos of my mother. And she goes, wow, this is about coming to life, right? She reached out to me. We're just talking on Instagram. And then I send the money and I have it. And I give it to my mom. My mom looks at me and I tell her the value of this. And my mom goes, with tears in the back of her eyes, says, this means a lot to me, because she saw the movie. She understood what it meant, the value behind this. For the first time, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about showing off. It wasn't about telling my sister. It was because I truly valued her, because I valued myself. So I give this to her. She has it. It's up in the mantle. It's all amazing. A couple weeks later, I'm like, damn, dude, I really kind of wish I had this. So like anything, I just reach out, message the person. Hey, do you have any more bids coming up? I really like what you did. I gave this to my mom. It means a lot to me. Can you go ahead? What do I need to do to buy another one? Hey, Anna, can you bring it over here real quick? So she messages me back. This is a big director from Disney. And she says, sure, David, give me a couple days. I'll paint, no, the photo. Give me a couple days. I'll put it together. I've been a little busy. And instead of brushing her off, because I know her value, I keep waiting. And I get busy. She knows my value, and she keeps waiting. And then she makes this. See the hair? Over glasses. Okay? My dad is not bald. And you guys probably seen my dad already, but he's not bald. All right? She makes this. Thank you very much. She makes this for me. And now I am now paying it for it and going from there, because financially I'm helping other people. And it's so important to me. It's in my living room. So you know what I do next? I message her and I said, hey, to be on my podcast. What's it about? Tell her what it's about. Because the good vibe, she says, sure, I'll do it. So now we're talking. Let me tell you this. The reason Disney and Pixar make short films is because, listen to this very carefully, understand the value of this and why you guys are doing certain things and why your bosses or your friends and family are testing. I said they're always testing. It's because Disney and Pixar wants to know that you can run a 7-minute short film before they give you the big feature. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. And then she tells me, I said, hey, Domi, in the interview part, I said, hey, how do you keep people motivated? For the guys that have asked me this, Rudy and John in particular, on how you motivate your team and your staff, let me tell you what she said to me. She said, for 3 years, we have to make a film that we will not see, and it only lasts 7 minutes. Think about what I just said. For 3 years, we have to do a film that we do not see, we don't know how it's been good, to make 7 minutes, so that we can then, if we do a good job, now direct feature films. How many of you guys can wait 3 years for just 7 minutes? Value. You're not valuing yourself. You're not valuing your patience, your hard work to hit the goal. Your grind is there, your heart is there, your motivation here. In fact, all you guys show up very regularly, and I appreciate your value and your time. That's why I give you my time. And when I heard this, I was like, well, Disney's doing it, and we read The Magic Kingdom. Now that makes sense on value. Hence why I have you guys read the books. And then she says to me, I kid you not. I said, well, how'd you start it? She goes, I held myself accountable. Now, this is where most people devalue themselves. When you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, what happens? Are you devaluing yourself? You devalued your word, right? You devalued who you are. You devalued what you believed in. You're devaluing yourself. And she says, well, I tell everyone at Pixar, we're going to make this movie. I didn't care about the cultural side of it. It had never happened before. I'm just going to go ahead and make this work. So I told all my coworkers that I was going to do this. And then I said to her, I said, hey, when you told all your coworkers what they do, well, they support me. Why? Because I'm nice to them. Humility, being nice to people, not having an ego, asking for help. And then she had to hold herself accountable, because if she didn't, she would have devalued her name in Disney Pixar. Let me keep going. The other lesson I learned from that, I was talking about this, she's like, I have to motivate my troops. I have to explain to them why we're doing what we're doing and how long it is, because they have to truly believe in you for 3 years to do a 7-minute film. Now, I'm pretty shocked that this person who I've never met before in real life, I've only had messages to, would go through my social media, didn't follow me back, my ego didn't get in the way, but knew everything about me enough to where she do another painting with good intentions, right? I didn't show it off, and then wanted to have a conversation with me on my podcast. You know what I found out? She'll be directing a feature film. Let me keep telling you what she did. She worked on The Incredibles, The Good Dinosaur. She worked on In and Out. And the craziest part, she won an Oscar in 2019 for Best Short Film. And this person wants to hear me talk and wants me to be their friend because I motivate them. When I talked about Flex Lewis last week, Stephen, you weren't here, but Flex Lewis, 7-time Mr. Olympia, 8-time, by the way, my new business partner, valued me because when he heard me talk, he said he felt the motivation. I motivated a 7-time Mr. Olympia? Come on, no way. You didn't like my any comments on it? Oh my God, here comes I added value. You know how I added value? By sharing his post. And immediately he sent back to me, he's like, hey man, thanks for sharing my post, that was unneeded. We started talking, we became friends. And now I'll be at Mr. Olympia with this guy in December because I added value to him. When I tell you this story, and I tell you that David Meltzer sends every single person from sports and esports, and Meltzer owns 3 of the largest teams with The Weeknd, and he values me for telling him, how do you think I feel when half the people don't show up to our sessions? Undervalued, correct? So there's a fine point between ego and valuing yourself. As long as you understand what your value is and what you're bringing, and what I always tell you, you have to deposit to withdraw. But if you keep depositing and people keep withdrawing, they don't care about you. They're not trying to work with you. You've now undervalued yourself. And that's where the frustration comes in. So if you read the books and you followed the plan and you wrote down everything, this end result right now should be very clear on what your value is and what you're worth. Value. Your value. That's what everyone struggles with. Value and ego are a very thin line, just like love and hate. You can love someone, be infatuated with them, want to be with them, and then all of a sudden you hate their guts. You want to know why? Because you're hurt, not because you hate them. Every action that you guys are doing, including myself, what I started recognizing was, I don't hate you, I'm hurt. And my emotion as an alpha male or a male or whatever I'm supposed to be, as a competitor, is I'm angry and I'm hurt. So my ego gets in the way. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't value me. So you don't value me, so now I'm not gonna F with you anymore. I don't know what that person's going through. I don't know what happened. If I love this person, I couldn't hate this person. I hate them because I undervalued myself and they didn't make me feel worthy. So therefore I felt like I couldn't be their friend. That's why friends turn to enemies. That's why lovers turn to haters. That's why family hates each other. They're just hurt. Everyone is sensitive. Everyone gets hurt. Everybody has feelings. I don't care if you're Flex Lewis or myself or an MMA fighter. Everyone the same way. In fact, the people who act the strongest are the most sensitive and softest because it takes a lot for us to act strong. Does that sound familiar to everyone that I'm talking to? But if you checked your ego and you knew your value, you would know when it's an ego play and when it's a value play. Know your value. Write that list down. Next week, I'd love to see the list. Not to show it to me, but if there's an area that you're lacking in value, guess what you have to do for value? Add value in that area to improve that relationship. Add value in that area to improve your job. Add value in that area to improve your mental and your healthy network. You have to add that value in order to move forward to be happy. That's the value, right? What do I ask somebody? I'm like, hey, do me a favor. Can you just take a photo and put it on and share on social media? And I'm like, hey, can you guys share one of my posts? And people are sharing my posts or they're sharing downtown spaces because I've asked, hey, I need help. This is the value I need you guys to give me. Just help me share it. Some of you just do it without me even asking. And I'm much appreciative of that. But that shows me the value of value, right? It's not an ego play. It's 7 to 10 people show up every single week in the middle of work, after work, at their home with their kids screaming, running on the treadmill like Daisy is, whatever y'all doing, but you put the time in because you understand my value, right? Just like I understand your value. That's why every single week, no matter how tired, I slept 3 hours today, last night, I'm here giving you my value. Know your value. That's extremely important. It is a difference between happiness and sadness, being able to let go and never letting go. Know your value. All right, we have about 15 minutes left. You know, I'm sure there has to be some questions. If there are no questions, I guess I can ramble on a little bit more, but it'd be nice. Like I told you guys, I want questions every week because I'll tell you why. It adds value to me. It allows me to understand where to take the direction in the course of what we're trying to do and not ramble about the same different things. Or maybe there's something that I've told you guys about that you're not very clear about, and now you want me to give you the value of clarification. You guys are all at this point where now I can do that. And I don't feel like, well, they don't understand the basics. There's no way I can do this. So I'm gonna start with, well, Mike's not here today, but let me take, you guys ever hear the funny story about Mike Cortez? You know Mike moved to Phoenix, right? Does everyone know this? We talk about value. I think I met Mike once or twice before back in the day, and I knew of him. He went to my first session I had in El Paso last September. I didn't hear from him again. And I wish Mike was here because I would tell Mike this. And everyone that joined, I was like, oh, Mike probably is never going to come back. He didn't really kind of react. I didn't see anything on his face. I'm trying to read him. That's why I like the videos on, so I can read your faces, right? I'm always reading people's faces and seeing how it is because this is new for me. I'm trying to educate and grow and really make a real meaningful impact in people's lives. And I hope you do the same. So then Mike jumps in and he's back. And one day, Mike starts asking questions and moving forward. And Mike, he's always part of this. And Mike said to me the other day, he goes, hey, I asked you a question. I said, sure. And he goes, do you know so-and-so and so-and-so? And Jess and Lily, you guys know Lucas and Carla, right? Lucas is my business partner, right? And he's like, oh, I've known Lucas and Omar for years. They have that payment processing company. I'm one of their partners in there. And I'm like, oh, whoa, what a small world. 2 weeks later, in our last live session, so Mike said, I'm probably not going to see you. I'm going to try to keep making these sessions. And he says something important to me. He says, man, because of you, I'm moving to Phoenix. Guys, at that point in time, I had tears welled up in the back of my eyes. And he's like, I believe in myself. I'm going to work, and I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to take less money to show what I'm worth so I can gain more. What Mike didn't mention to you guys was the guy that he's working for is ironically a guy that wants to partner up with me in Phoenix. Value. And Mike was like, I was like, Mike, you're screwed with me, right? There's no way that, no way, no. He goes, nah, dude, it's Joey Fazio. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm on a call with Joey last week, talking about doing business together. I'm like, Joey, you just hired Mike. He's like, yeah, I know. He's one of your guys. I said, look, he's one of my mentees. He's really good at what he's doing. I added a value, and I told him, because you want to do business with me, how great Mike Cortez is. You don't ever know who we all know. You don't ever know who can help you out. Value everybody. Be a good human being. Value. That's the point of the story. So with that in mind, Stephen, you're the first one up because you're the first one on my screen. Do you have any questions? By the way, I loved your vacation. I was very jealous I wasn't invited, but I understand why, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. Much needed rest and relaxation after that hell of a. But actually, I do have a question for you. Private equity or venture capital? If you could only do one or the other for the rest of your business career, which would it be and why?
You mean as far as me investing or as far as me doing?
Both, I guess. I guess mostly investing.
As an investor, right?
Yeah.
The right answer, at least for me, is not private equity or venture capital. It's what I'm most comfortable with in the returns. So I said this last week, or 2 weeks ago, I said this. I had a guy who's my broker. He earned my business. He's also, ironically, Rick Barry's financial advisor. He's the 6th largest wealth fund manager in the world. He's been helping me with everything. In fact, for 6 months, he literally helped me meet Regal Cinema. I talked to David Stern before David Stern died, rest in soul, God's honest truth. I'm up in New York. He added value, and all he wanted for me was a small investment. And typically, I deal with PEs, private equity, because venture capitals to me are just, they're soul suckers. They're waiting for you to screw up. So I don't like taking VC money. I was a VC, but I did it in the right way. They want you to hit 20% and give you impossible odds so they can take your company from you. Typically how VCs work. Private equity is me taking everyone's money equity-wise. I don't have the same restrictions as the SEC, but you think that because they're an SEC, there's less chance of losing your money in your company. That's a crock of poop. And then you go from there and you work with them. I have a private equity firm. We do different investments all the time, right? And my last 5 investments have doubled every single time, right? But the reality is, my whole point of that story is you have to be comfortable with the person, the guy who's managing it. You have to believe in that leader and what they're doing. And does that leader have the support and the insight and the knowledge to do what they have to do? Greed is what overcomes everyone. So he says, hey, if you put in $5,000, we'll do a 12% return. But if you put in $30,000, you want 25% return. Ego says 30%, higher risk. Reality says $5,000, let's see what you can do and go from there. So it should come down to what you're most comfortable with and what you can do and what you're willing to do, and then make that decision. If it's you trying to run a company, private equity all the way, being a VC sucks. It's the worst thing in the world. It's always your fault. It's always everything wrong. Private equity, the reality is there's still a risk, but it's also still your own money, and you go from there. It's house money as opposed to big corporate money, which really just sucks, and they just want to screw you. So depending on what side of the world you're talking about, that's what I would tell you. And it has to be very, very specific, but that will give you the value that you need to figure out what kind of investments you want to do and go from there. If you're really new in investments, can I give you guys one piece of advice? Download Acorns, Acorns. Acorns will teach you guys how to make money. It started by Ashton Kutcher. It was just funded majorly by a very, very large person. You should definitely Google it. It's free on your app. But what it does is it takes let's say you spend $1, but instead you spend 96 cents. It rounds up your pennies and then invests into mutual funds. I can tell you over the course of the year, you put your credit card in, right? So, you get tacos and it's $2.92, here comes 8 cents, right? What do we do with most of our change? We do this. That's all we do, right? We just throw it away, it doesn't matter. What it does is it takes your small percentage of money and then invest in it with leaders. I can tell you from all the change I have, I'm at 12 grand, and I definitely didn't put in 12 grand. I got to deal with it. Slowly but surely, it takes my change. But what I'm doing with the Acorns, ACRONS, it is an app on your phone. You can definitely do it. I did it. It grows your money and it just takes your change. Why am I so comfortable telling you guys this, but I won't tell you anything else? Because A, I'm doing it, and B, nobody cares about their change. It grew to 12 grand. Anytime I go shopping, my gas, it just rounds up the money on that credit card that you're using. So I use the same debit card and it grows my money. 12 grand off of my change. I made 5 grand off of it in the last year and a half by doing nothing. Learn that side of it first, understand transactions, see who they're investing in, see the numbers and the multiples, and then you can get into the investing side. You know what I mean? Then you can question everyone else. But if there has to be a short, simple, spoon-fed way, that would be my answer for you. Acorns. Acorns. That's what Acorns. Sorry, I'm tired. That's what it is. The bottom one, not the top one. I don't know what the top one is. But hopefully that helps. Rudy, you have a question?
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about, as you know, I have my ATM business that I've been growing, so thankfully it's growing pretty well. I'm at the point now that I want to make sure that I'm kind of like accounting for all my money and making sure that I have my business organized correctly to maximize the tax savings. Is there anybody specifically that you recommend me kind of learning from or watching videos from or just reading, just so I can make sure that I'm running my business as effectively as possible to maximize my revenue by taking advantage of tax savings? I don't know if that makes sense.
I would say me, obviously. But for some of you who have messaged me privately, I haven't answered back because I don't feel very comfortable charging you for the time, but then I have to charge for my time. You know what I mean? So I know some of you have like, you see me see it, I'm like, and I write and I'll disappear because I value what we currently have, right? So I want to be honest with you. But I will give you 3 pieces of advice for any business owner that is extremely important for you guys to understand. And then I will tell you who else you can look to. But I'm very cautious about it because I don't want you spending money that you shouldn't have to spend, you know, and I much rather be the one who charges you. But I gotta be honest with you guys, I feel so uncomfortable charging you guys for the extra hours and times. That's why I don't respond back. I'm like trying to think about it. I'm like, dude, you know, I don't know what the answer is. And I wish I did, you know, I wish I could comfortably say this is what I'm going to charge. But let me tell you what it is. When you're doing your business right now, you're taking, hypothetically, $2,500 to buy the ATM machines. I've had ATMs. You might be doing a payment on it. You need $2,000, $1,000, or 20s with the max amount of $295 per transaction that you're allowed to, multiples of 20 to 200 bucks. Sounds familiar, right? Okay. So what happens is, as you're taking your money, everybody should understand that when you open a corporation, you should have a corporation that has an account. So I'm going to call it Rudy Robles LLC. You have a second account that's only for taxes. In other words, be disciplined enough that you know the tax percentage is about 30%, and if you don't know, you should ask an accountant, but roughly it's about 30%, depending on what you're trying to do. And the profit from that money is immediately disciplined and put into a fund that you don't touch, so by the end of the year, you pay your taxes. What most people screw up on, including myself, is we made all this money, yeah, we can keep growing expansion, and all of a sudden, tax season comes around, you don't have any money for taxes because you didn't count the fact that that 30% is there. And because you mix and match this, instead of spending the extra 15 minutes and having just a tax account, you blew the tax money on expanding and growing. That's a huge issue. And then now the IRS comes and goes after you. There's a third account. The third account, which I talk about, is separating my liabilities from my assets, which is my employees, my staff. I don't care if you have 1 staff member or 15 staff members. The reason you separate 3 accounts, and this is free advice, is because you have your taxes, you have your income and your money coming in and out, but you have your payroll. The reason you have your payroll is so that these are the most important things that absolutely be taken off, because without one and without the other, you don't have employees, you can't expand. If you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail. And then when you separate those 2 things, now you have the opportunity to have the money that's there, and the money that's there is now for expansion and growth. That is a basic thing you have to do before you grow and do anything else. You have to have 3 different accounts. I can get very complex and tell you more in detail exactly what we do and why it is what we did. But basically, what Deloitte would have charged us $50,000 to just tell you what I told you in 5 minutes. And if you need more detail, I'd be more than happy to tell you that offline. But you want to separate those 3 things. Is there anyone that's giving course free that I would actually believe that would do this? Man, I can't even name a person. I just can't, because I feel like everyone's trying to do something and sell something and do something else. And for me, that becomes a major issue, right? But there are I really don't have anyone. Let me think about it, and I'll give you a very specific person. But I have to really think about it, because I know you and I know your passion for learning and education. I know you'll invest yourself and spend the money, but I want to make sure you don't get taken for a ride on it. You know what I mean? And going from there. So let me think about it. And if I don't get back to you in 2 days, just message me and I'll tell you the name. Okay?
Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
Hey, the other thing I want to tell you is don't overexpand. Don't let that be an ego play. Just because you make money on 1, make money on 2, make money on 3, make money on 4, doesn't make your money 5, 6, and 7. I see you, I follow you on social media, I share your stuff, but take your time. Like I said, don't forget what I told you about the 25% and the 12%, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. Take your time and move forward and go from there.
Okay. Cool.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
No problem, man. Lily, do you have a question? You can turn on the light, please. You have to have a question. I'm not going to take no today.
No, I do. So like for me, it's what should be more important, like growing like an audience social media wise, or, you know, just jumping out there and doing like, you know, starting my business and, you know, just little by little, like grow social media wise.
Well, they're both equally as important, because social media is your marketing, your branding to get your message out, right? I tag you guys. I'm trying to remind you, hey, don't forget there's a session this week. Don't forget to not remember what I'm teaching or what you've learned or what you've dedicated your life, or, you know, whatever weeks we're on at this point, and going from there. You got to look at social media as branding and a marketing tool, and the impact is you don't know the impact. You can't base it, like I just told you, on likes and comments. If I did that, dude, I wouldn't be doing this anymore. I'd be like, there's so many likes. People like my nice cars. They don't like my message. Horse shit. Flex Lewis likes my message. But you have to definitely grow. And if you want to grow, that's the purpose of having a business plan. You have to really understand the business plan. Obviously, my firm can do business plans. We can do it very, very well. We've done it for hundreds of companies, and it's worked, and it works for my companies. But again, there's that uncomfortable level for me to like make you guys, you know, do that. But if it really came down like, David, I absolutely want to do this and I'm gonna go for it, then we'll have that discussion, you know. But it's because I value you guys and your time, and so I don't want to do that. But you should always do both. When you're doing business, you have to realize this. It's like your kids, right? You have kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like this. You wake up in the morning and you already know you have a set routine where you're multitasking, right? You're making the food, you're running over here, you're getting this person dressed, but you're not sitting there doing one thing at a time, because if you did that, they would never go to school. That's business. You already do it in life. You do it very, very well because you're a mother. That's what you have to do in business. You have to multitask. You can't wait for one for the other. They have to come there, and hopefully if everyone's on the same page, it will simultaneously match. Sometimes it won't, but that's okay. But you don't do it step by step because they wouldn't go to school, right? You're multitasking. So think of that in terms of business when it comes to, you know, growing the business, getting money, growing your brand, understanding the legal side, understanding account side. It has to be all multiples and different vertical integrations, because the reality is, if you're trying to file for a bank account or a new company, it takes 5 days or 6 days for you to get it. Does that mean you don't market until you get it? No, you just keep marketing, right? You keep moving forward, right? You have to do all the different verticals at one time and realize that the end goal has to be, remember the 3 years for 7 minutes, the end goal has to be that it's going to win that Academy Award and go from there.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
So do it all.
All right. Thanks.
No problem. Jess?
So
Do you have a question?
I always struggle with the question part because anything that I'm thinking or wondering, you always either answer it in your podcast or you answer it in the sessions. But since I'm new to the whole business type of thing, my struggle is my insecurities and believing in myself and just taking a plunge and doing just doing it, just doing whatever I decide I want to do or just doing, that's my biggest part. But see, I already know what you're going to tell me. Like,
What am I going to tell you?
That it's an insecurity and that I have to stop, or that I have to stop thinking about what people think or caring about other people's. It's my life.
Let me tell you this.
Even the value part, like I'm undervaluing myself right now by not doing a lot of things that I might want to do because I'm doing like hesitating a lot or.
Look, guys, let me just be straightforward with you guys. Everything you guys are doing, and every time you have a business, and every time, even when you guys are talking to me, you're selling yourself. You're selling your kindness, your compassion, your personalities. You're selling the fact that you guys are helping me push my projects and helping it through. You guys, as a group, cohesively, every one of you, have put value enough in my life to where I want to be here and say something every single week and be consistent no matter how tired I am. No matter how much money I could be making doing something else out there in this time, there's a value. So if all you guys from Rudy to Steven to John and everyone else in between are doing this, and I have guys like Meltzer, or I have an Academy Award-winning director spending time with me, there's your value. So if we see this, then the only person that's devaluing yourself is you. You have to realize you've always been in sales. You've always done something. That's why you're doing what you've done. So there has to be a point where now that you value yourself and say, look, I just got to move forward, because if I don't, you're just going to be stuck in the same situation, right? There's a difference between like blindly doing things. That's why I talk about business plans all the time, and really understanding that I can take the chance to go from there. Taking a chance, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to screw up. So you're going to make mistakes. So you make enemies. So who doesn't? It happens to all of us. But you have to just keep moving forward with it, because the 3 years for 7 minutes, that's what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thanks. John, what about you? Or no, John.
Hey, sir.
Oh, it's the beard, man.
Appreciate it. For me, it's going to be.
What?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. The what?
You grew that overnight?
Nah, I've been letting it grow. I have to try to shape it. Gonna try something different.
Dang,
So I've been letting
I've
it
been
grow.
doing this for 40 years. The best I can get.
Yeah, it's been difficult, man. Especially in those like roughy patches. It's hard to rock it, but luckily it's getting to the point where it's even out.
Rough here. I get it. But man, good seeing you. I know you're out in Midland. Tell me, what is your question?
So for me, it's going to be the value aspect of it. I know we talked about it, but how do you continue to add value? I know, especially like with individuals like yourself, I try to do my part with sharing some of your stuff, spreading your message. But I know I want to continue to add value, and I think that can only go so far. Now, is it better to stick to my strengths, or see, like I know you talk about areas of opportunity where maybe there's an opportunity to connect someone through networking or offer your expertise on a certain thing that might be coming up on an individual's life, but just want to continue to figure out how I can be value to the people that I'm networking with and the people I'm connecting with.
First things first is I appreciate the value of that question, right? Because I say that because maybe you will have someone that's looking for an office space, and so you hit them up and say, look at downtown spaces. Maybe you'll have someone that needs consulting where I might not feel comfortable because you've reached out to me and say, hey, I don't know what I'm gonna do with you guys hourly. But you have Steve, your friend, who I don't know, who I don't have a personal relationship with, that I would charge 5 or 10 grand to do what I typically do, right? You know, we all have to eat, we all have to live, we all have to survive. We can only help each other based on our means and our abilities too. And everyone has helped us. I'm like, hey, I need help with this. You guys put it up and go from there. Understanding that value is not devaluing, saying, well, I just keep doing that. It's the best I can do. That's not true. It means a lot to me every time you do it. First thing, that's the value I feel for you. Second thing is when, you know, you're going to hear parts where, hey, David does do this, or someone so does do that, and you can be a connector. My value in everything that I do with everyone that I work with on the levels of these celebrities is I understand what they're lacking and I understand who can do it to a value. Let me give you an example. I do this every day. If someone says, hey, online, he says all the time, which I don't know why they don't Google this. Can I find, somebody tell me of a good mechanic. So what do? You pop, hey, my friend John, right? Value. Hey, I want to go on this resort. What do you think? Rudy goes, hey, I've been here, but go to my friend Lily's resort. That's value. You do it all the time. You guys do it on social media. You do it with your friends. You do recommendations. That's a value. You know how to put this person together with this because of your experiences. So if it's me personally, you know what I do for a living? I'm in private equity, right? I do real estate. I do esports, and I do a couple of things. Shoot, even if you show up at the restaurant and you just tag me, that's adding value to me because at least I know you care enough about eating at my restaurant. Give me 5 stars. Help me out with that. That's value, right? But the thing about people is where you start giving value, you start receiving value. You know what I mean? And if that was the case, I'd be like, I'm not going to charge John. I mean, he's already given me the value back because you brought in somebody that needs a $10,000 blah, 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 or $100,000 blah, 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 blah. That's how I've made it by networking and connecting. There is a value there, and that value makes a big difference. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does.
So that's what I would tell you, and go forward with it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Who has that? Josh. I guess you're the one who hasn't asked a question yet. Do you have a question, Josh?
No, I don't have any questions right now.
You have to start asking questions.
All right.
I want that value. I want you to understand. And it cannot be by Amari Cooper. That's a separate discussion. That we could just do offline.
All right.
That's okay. If you don't have one, you don't have to ask one.
I'm gonna come up with one, but I got you. Other than that.
Okay, I appreciate that. You guys, that's it for me this week. Please take a photo. Please promote it. There's 7 people on. I should see 7 stories. Help me add value so we can help other people and go from there. Keep doing what you're doing. John, when you ever get back from Midland, let me know. Be nice to finally meet you. The only one I haven't met besides Josh. But I met, but let's keep adding value and growing and do what you have. Remember, your list, know your value, the 5 areas of value. Those 5 areas are very valuable for you in your life, and you'll know where we're going to go and go from there. Okay? All right, guys, have a great week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next week. Know your value. Bye, guys.
There it is.